Hello, and welcome to another video. Today, I have a different type of video for you where I thought I'd give you a recap of a very cool event that I went to last weekend. So this'll probably be a pretty rambly video, as I'll just be talking and looking through some deck lists here. But I hope you stick around and enjoy, and maybe even feel a little inspired to give this a try yourself. So last weekend, I was in St. Louis for the 14th vintage rotisserie draft from the crew over at St. Lotus, and my husband was there doing commentary, so I got to go and help out, which was very fun. And I will make sure to link to all of the St. Lotus stuff down in this video's description, so give them a visit and have a look around. There are some archived streams of past vintage rotisserie drafts there, and I for sure recommend checking those out. But yeah, first I think I'll give a rundown of what exactly a vintage rotisserie draft is, because that really sets the stage for everything that we'll be talking about here. So, rotisserie draft is a draft format where players are seated 1 through 8, and then the draft picks snake through the pod from player 1 until 8, and then 8 through 1, 1 through 8, 8 through 1, and repeating that for 46 picks. But there are no packs in a rotisserie draft. Instead, players have access to the entire pool of cards that they are drafting from. So this is heads up, and players can see everything that everyone else is drafting, because you can only draft one of any card. And since this is a vintage rotisserie draft, the card pool that the players are drafting from is all cards that are legal in vintage, with a few caveats like conspiracy cards that affect how the draft works and things like that. And then lastly, I don't know if this is something that all rotisserie drafts do, or if this is just something that St. Lotus does, but because of the nature of how the snake draft works, some players might find certain seats more desirable than others. For example, seats 1 and 8 each get to make 2 picks back to back each time the draft snakes back. Or seats 4 and 5 in the middle can potentially give you a little more balance. So because there is strategy here, the pod seating is also essentially drafted. Players are just put into a random order, and then we go down the list one by one, and each player selects their seat that way. And then after the draft, players will build a 40-card deck just like normal, and then they'll each play each other round robin style for 7 matches. So let's go ahead and take a look through the first few rounds of draft picks together. You'll be able to see how things start shaping up during the draft. and then we will take a look at a few of the final deck lists. So, to help keep things manageable, since players are drafting from every card available, the entire draft is done here on a spreadsheet, which helps us keep track that there's no duplicates being picked and everything is legal. And conveniently, there is a tab with all of the card images on it. I just think it makes it a lot easier to visualize what is going on. And it's my understanding that players go into this with a rough plan of what they want to draft ideally, and probably also going in with some options for pivoting in case somebody else is on their same plan or essential cards are getting taken by other players. But there is a lot of trying to figure out how late or early you need to take some of your key components. For example, if you're pretty certain that nobody else is going to be on your strategy, then maybe you can float some of the cards that are going to be unique to your deck a bit farther down, since other players probably won't take them, and then prioritize picking up cards that are going to be competitive that other players are probably going to want. So yeah, the beginning of the draft is obviously going to be the most powerful cards. The first two picks are pretty much always going to be Black Lotus and Ancestral Recall. The first player is really burdened with that decision of which one they're going to take and which one they're going to let the second seat have. So we've got those. Then of course we have Mana Crypt, the Moxes, and Soul Ring. And we see the 8th seat here got to take 2 Moxes because they were on that turnaround. We've got Time Walk and Time Vault. And here's where it gets interesting, I think, because we can see that scrum for that next tier of cards where they're still very powerful, but you get to see what the players are really valuing and which direction players are carving out for themselves. So we've got Urza's Saga, Mana Drain, White Plume Adventurer, Hull Breacher, and then player 1 gets Ragavan followed by Minsc and Boo. We move on to Force of Will, Ancient Tomb, Oko, Thief of Crowns, Strip Mine, Thoughtseize, Tinker, and then Lightning Bolt followed by Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Snapcaster Mage, Renin 6, Spell Pierce, the One Ring, our Time Twister, and then seat 1 gets Lelia, followed by 4th Year Lingus, Fast Bond, Mana Vault, Lutri, Orcish Bowmasters, Force of Negation, Demonic Tutor. So we can really start to see some of these decks beginning to take shape. We can tell there's a few players definitely interested in blue. We've got a number of different counter spells spread out here. We've got a deck that is solidly red, but another one that is possibly green-red. We've got Tinker out, so probably pretty interested in artifacts. The White Plume Adventurer is someone kind of staking their claim on the initiative. And yeah, I will say it is pretty cool to see this go down in real time. And the entire draft is live streamed with commentary, so you can kind of speculate on what you think players might be thinking or what they might want to take next. Maybe even make an experimental pick. Like, towards the end, we did see some of the Fallout cards get picked. There were a couple from Thunder Junction, like the Caustic Bronco and Roxanne. And my job for the day was essentially being glued to this spreadsheet here, and every time a card was picked, I was tasked with finding the card, sleeving it up, and putting it in that player's pile. Which did get a little hectic at times, honestly. You know, players were often pretty slow and very decisive about their picks, but occasionally you would get a run of like 6 or 7 cards that went all at once. So it was kind of a scramble to find everything, get it all sorted and ready to go. But I really enjoyed helping out behind the scenes like that. Probably the best place for me to be, honestly. And it was a lot of fun. So the last thing that I have for today is just a quick look at the final deck lists that the players ended up on. And I'll just focus on the top 3 decks, which are all the ones that went 5-2 for the day. In third place, we had the Naya deck. So this was seat 1 that took Black Lotus. Interestingly, had Invasion of Gobakhan. We had Comet, Minskin Boo, and Nissa Who Shakes the World. Some very strong planeswalkers there. We had Luris, Lelia, Inti, Solitude, Stoneforge Mystic, whose only target is Cauldra Complete. Breakout is a newer one from Karloff Manor. Once Upon a Time. And this is all on Moxfield, which is linked from the spreadsheet if you wanted to take a look. That is all accessible from stlotus.org. Our second place deck was 4-color, everything except red. We have a little reanimator package here with Archon of Cruelty, Griselbrand, Troll of Khazad-dûm, maybe even Street Wraith if you're not cycling it. We've got 3 mana Teferi, Snapcaster, a bunch of Hand Disruption, Leovold in the sideboard, and we've got Malcolm from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which is a bit newer. So yeah. And in first place, we've got Boros with a bunch of creatures, a lot of initiative with White Plume Adventurer, Seasoned Dungeoneer, Caves of Chaos Adventurer, Bloodboil Sorcerer, all that good stuff. Balance, March of Otherworldly Light, The One Ring, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Lots of really cool stuff in here. But yeah, that is pretty much all that I had for you today. As always, I would love to hear what you think. Have you ever done a rotisserie draft? Have you ever done a vintage rotisserie draft? Is it something that you would like to try out? I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, especially if you are into vintage cube and maybe want to try out something different. But, like I mentioned at the top, go check out St. Lotus at stlotus.org and St. Lotus MTG on Twitch. You can watch some of the vintage rotisserie drafts there, and their website has a rundown of the rules and articles, recaps of past events, and all kinds of good stuff like that. So definitely go support them if vintage rotisserie draft is up your alley. But otherwise, that is going to be all for today. But I very much appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would hit that thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll be back with new Magic the Gathering ASMR videos every Monday and Friday. And a huge thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. Your support means the absolute world to me. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.